back. Let's talk about the back and forth playing out right now in the Senate over those COVID relief checks in the long game for everybody involved. David A. Katz up late with me on the Final Five. He's also live tonight. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Great to be with you, Jim.
Talk to me about how you see all of this playing out. I mean, you've been in Washington. You worked in the Reagan administration. I mean, you know how Capitol Hill works. It's certainly evolved right now, but we're seeing this back and forth where relief for Americans has predictably turned political.
Well, you know, I understand fiscal conservatism, and I understand where the Republicans are coming from, but this is not the time to be coming from there. We have a once-in-a-century pandemic. We're feeling it really hard out here in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. We're kind of the, the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the country is going to be feeling these spikes, unfortunately, like we are, because we're in the wintertime. People are going to stay indoors even more in the East and in the Midwest than they are out here on the sunny West Coast. So the Congress has a chance to deal with this. And I think that President Trump, we're getting an idea of what it might have been like if 4 years ago he decided to have more bipartisan support, if he'd reached out to the Democrats more. Because this is like infrastructure. Remember, that was something that it seemed like Trump and the Democrats could get together on, and then Trump never came up with a program that made sense for the Democrats. But this is one that's no time for fiscal conservatism. I understand pay as you go, but not right now. We need the $2,000 checks right now. And if some of them, quote, go to people who haven't lost money, first of all, a lot of people have lost money. Law firms, you name it, not just restaurants and other places like that. A lot of people have lost money and can use the $2,000. But there's people who desperately need it, Jim, and time is of the essence, and those checks need to go out. And Trump is right on this one. 600 is a disgrace. It's way too little. People need this money right now like they need the relief from evictions. If people get evicted, they're going to infect other people. The biggest conservative who doesn't want to spend money understands that if people get evicted, if they're homeless, if they're out there, if they're not using the right protection, if they're not able to socially distance, they're going to spread this virus. That's exactly what's happened in sunny Southern California, where people agglomerate much more than people realize. And they can't take time off from work. They have to get out there, and they're spreading the virus. So all the relief that Congress can do now, they should try to do the $2,000, Democrats and Republicans.
So you mentioned about President Trump reaching across the aisle, and you know, I just want to bring up President Reagan for a moment, because when he passed away back in 2004, I talked with Dale Petrosky, who worked in the Reagan White House. At that point, he was heading up the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. And what stuck with me was just that idea that regardless of the conflict that you have with Tip O'Neill, with the Democrats on Capitol Hill, at the end of the day, you realize that there's a base level, that we're all humans, that we all get along, that we all can relate to each other on a basic level. And it's funny that we're nearing the end of this Congress and really the end of this administration, where you see President Trump, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer on one side and Mitch McConnell on the other side. It really is a fascinating dichotomy.
Well, if McConnell keeps this up and has what Trump calls a death wish, you know, the Republicans came and the Republicans may go. There may be a new political party, which, as I say, may be very fiscally conservative and may be for small government, but not right now. And I think Reagan had the ability, like you said, with Tip O'Neill. I remember very well when they saved Social Security. And I was hoping that Trump would come up with something with the moderate Democrats to save Obamacare, not have, you know, what they call Medicare for all, but to save Obamacare, to protect people with pre-existing conditions. You know, Trump talked a good game, but then he didn't really get involved with that. And I hope the Republicans do, because that's a program like Social Security that needed saving. And something needs to be done with the situation with the, whatever you want to call it, undocumented workers, the 10 million people in America. And Reagan tried to help those people. People have a short memory. But Reagan helped those people, and it was very humanitarian, and it was sensible legislation. And something has to be done sensible about this problem with, you know, the people who've been here now 10 or 12 years that don't have any status. So maybe it's not citizenship. Maybe it's that they would have status as long as they pay any back taxes. But a lot of them are undocumented taxpayers. You know, there are people who paid in more to the system who are not in this country federally, legally, than they've gotten out of the system. So we need to see all of that together. And I sure hope the parties can work together, also work together on judicial selections where we have moderates, not extremes of one sort or the other. moderate, fair-minded judicial officers.
I'll tell you what, hey, David A. Katz, when we talk about the judicial end of things, I want to bring you back on the show because there's still a whole debate about who's going to run the Justice Department and what we have to see in an Biden administration when it comes to judicial philosophy. But I appreciate you joining me tonight. And by the way, I know all about distractions sometimes. I know that there was work going on behind you. You were a trooper through all of it. I appreciate it very much. David A. Katz on the Final Five, and we're back after this.
Take care.